All right, everyone, let's jump into headache disorders. Headaches are extremely common, but not all headaches are benign. And part of becoming a strong nurse is recognizing the difference. In this lecture, we're going to focus on the major headache types, the clinical patterns associated with them, important red flags, and the key nursing and medical interventions used in practice. I really want you thinking clinically throughout this topic. When you hear unilateral eye pain with tearing, think cluster headache. When you hear throbbing pain with nausea and photophobia, think migraine. And when you hear sudden severe headache, neurologic changes, or vision disturbances, your brain should immediately recognize potential danger signs. We'll also connect the pathophysiology to the symptoms and discuss practical patient management strategies that actually improve outcomes. Now let's talk about what is actually happening physiologically during a migraine. A migraine is not just a bad headache, it's a neurologic activation cascade. It starts with what we call a hyperexcitable brain. Some patients are simply more neurologically sensitive to triggers like stress, hormonal changes, bright lights, sleep deprivation, or certain foods. That hyperexcitable state can trigger something called cortical spreading depression. Think of this like a wave of abnormal electrical activity moving across the brain. That wave then causes the release of inflammatory neuropeptides, including serotonin and other vasoactive chemicals. Those inflammatory chemicals stimulate the meningeal nociceptors, which are basically pain-sensitive nerve endings around the brain and meninges. And once those pain pathways are activated, the patient experiences the migraine symptoms: throbbing pain, photophobia, phonophobia, nausea, and sometimes aura symptoms as well. One thing I want you to remember is that migraines are both neurologic and inflammatory. That's important because it helps explain why patients can have sensory symptoms, mood changes, nausea, and significant pain all at the same time. Now let's look at migraine triggers, because this is huge for both NCLEX and patient education. Migraine patients often start recognizing patterns over time, and triggers usually fall into a few major categories. First, dietary triggers. Foods containing tyramine, MSG, chocolate, alcohol, and sometimes caffeine can trigger migraines in certain patients. Next are physiologic triggers like hormonal fluctuations, sleep deprivation, fatigue, or even skipping meals. One of the most common things migraine patients say is, "I didn't sleep well," or "I skipped breakfast." Environmental triggers are also very common. Bright lights, strong odors, loud sounds, and weather changes can all contribute. And then psychological triggers like stress and anxiety are major contributors as well. One important teaching point is that triggers are individualized. Not every patient reacts to the same thing. That's why headache diaries can be so helpful. Patients can track foods, stress, sleep, menstrual cycles, and activities to start identifying patterns and reducing exposures. Now let's walk through the 4 clinical phases of a migraine with aura, because migraines are often very predictable once you understand the sequence. The first phase is the premonitory phase. This is basically the warning stage. Patients may feel tired, irritable, anxious, crave certain foods, or have difficulty concentrating hours before the migraine actually begins. Next is the aura phase. Not every migraine patient has aura, but when they do, these are neurologic manifestations. Patients may describe flashing lights, zigzag lines, blurry vision, numbness, tingling, or even speech disturbances. Then comes the headache phase, which is usually the most intense part. This is where patients experience the classic throbbing pain, often unilateral, along with nausea, vomiting, photophobia, and phonophobia. And finally, the postdrome phase. This is sometimes called the migraine hangover. Patients may feel exhausted, mentally foggy, weak, or drained even after the pain improves. One important nursing point is that early treatment works best. If patients recognize the premonitory or aura phase early and take abortive medications quickly, they may reduce the severity of the headache phase. Let's look a little closer at those first 2 phases, because this is where patients often start realizing a migraine is coming. During the premonitory phase, patients may become irritable, emotional, depressed, or unusually fatigued. Some patients get very specific food cravings, and others may even develop GI symptoms like nausea or stomach discomfort before the headache ever starts. Then we move into the aura phase, which is the neurologic phase. Visual disturbances are the classic finding. Patients may describe flashing lights, blind spots, shimmering lines, or blurry vision. Some patients also experience numbness, tingling, mild confusion, or generalized weakness. Now, this is an important clinical point. The aura phase is often the best time for abortive therapy. Medications like triptans work much better when given early, rather than waiting until the migraine reaches peak intensity. And remember, because aura symptoms can mimic neurologic emergencies like stroke, assessment matters. Sudden new neurologic symptoms should always be taken seriously, especially if the patient has never had aura before. Now we move into phases 3 and 4, which are really the acute attack and recovery stages. The headache phase is where symptoms peak. Patients often describe severe throbbing pain, commonly unilateral, along with photophobia, which is extreme sensitivity to light, and phonophobia, which is sensitivity to sound. Nausea and vomiting are also very common, and many patients want to lie completely still in a dark, quiet room because movement and stimulation make the pain worse. This is also where nursing interventions become really important. Reducing environmental stimuli, controlling nausea, promoting hydration, and administering medications early can make a huge difference in patient comfort. Then we move into the postdrome phase, often called the migraine hangover. Even after the pain improves, patients may feel exhausted, achy, mentally foggy, or emotionally drained for hours, or even a full day afterward. And this is important because patients sometimes feel frustrated when the headache is technically gone, but they still don't feel normal. So reassurance and patient education matter here too. Let's compare the major headache types. First, tension headaches. These are the classic stress headaches. Patients often describe a band-like pressure around the forehead or back of the neck. They're usually more dull and tight rather than throbbing. Treatment often includes heat, massage, relaxation techniques, and simple analgesics. Next are cluster headaches, and these are very different clinically. Cluster headaches cause severe, piercing unilateral pain, usually around one eye. Patients may have tearing, nasal congestion, or redness on the affected side. These patients are often restless and unable to lie still. High-flow oxygen and triptans are common treatments. Then we have cranial arteritis, also called temporal arteritis. This is important because it can threaten vision. Patients may have temporal artery tenderness, jaw pain, vision changes, and systemic symptoms. This is an inflammatory vasculitis, and corticosteroids are the primary treatment. And finally, migraines, which are often unilateral, throbbing, associated with nausea, photophobia, phonophobia, and sometimes aura. Treatment includes abortive medications like triptans and preventive therapies for recurrent migraines. One major clinical pearl here. Cluster headaches and migraines are both severe, but migraine patients usually want darkness and rest, while cluster headache patients are often agitated and pacing because the pain is so intense. Now let's talk assessment, because this is where clinical judgment really starts to matter. When a patient comes in with a headache, we do not immediately assume it's just a migraine. We need to build a full picture first. You want to gather a detailed history and perform a good neurologic assessment. Ask about when the headache started, how often it happens, how long it lasts, where the pain is located, what the pain feels like, and what makes it better or worse. Some patients will tell you right away, "This feels exactly like my normal migraines," while others may describe something completely different from what they've experienced before. You also want to ask about associated symptoms. Are they having nausea, vomiting, vision changes, weakness, numbness, confusion, fever, or neck stiffness? Medication history matters too, because some patients end up developing medication overuse headaches from taking analgesics too frequently. Now here's the important clinical principle. Most primary headaches have normal neurologic exams. That means we do not automatically send every headache patient for advanced imaging. Imaging and additional diagnostics are usually reserved for patients who have abnormal neurologic findings or clinical red flags. For example, a sudden thunderclap headache, altered mental status, focal deficits, seizures, fever, meningismus, headaches after trauma, or completely new severe headache in an older adult should immediately raise concern for something more serious. So the key takeaway here is that assessment drives the workup. Not every headache is dangerous, But the dangerous headaches are the ones we absolutely cannot afford to miss. Now let's move into treatment strategies, because migraine management usually follows two major pathways: abortive therapy and preventive therapy. Abortive therapy is designed to stop an active migraine attack once it starts. The goal is rapid symptom control. Triptans are considered first-line therapy for many migraine patients. These medications work by targeting serotonin receptors and helping reduce the inflammatory vascular response associated with migraines. Ergotamine is another option, although it's used less commonly today because triptans tend to have a better safety and side effect profile. NSAIDs can also be very effective, especially for mild to moderate migraines, and many patients will use them early in the attack process. Now, preventive medications are different. These are used to reduce the frequency and severity of migraines over time, especially in patients with frequent or disabling headaches. Beta blockers are commonly used, even though they were originally cardiac medications. Anti-epileptics and certain antidepressants are also used because of how they stabilize neurologic pathways involved in migraine activity. And then we have newer therapies, like CGRP monoclonal antibodies, which specifically target migraine-related inflammatory pathways. One important thing to remember is that migraine management is highly individualized. Some patients respond beautifully to one therapy, while another patient may need several adjustments before finding the right combination. Now let's briefly look at a couple of targeted interventions for specific headache disorders, because not all headaches are treated the same way. For cluster headaches, oxygen therapy is actually considered one of the primary interventions. That surprises a lot of people at first. High-flow oxygen can rapidly reduce symptoms in many patients during an acute attack. Pharmacologically, triptans such as sumatriptan and zolmitriptan are commonly used as well. Cluster headaches tend to present with very severe unilateral pain, often around the eye, along with tearing or nasal congestion. Now, cranial arteritis, also called temporal arteritis, is very different and much more concerning because it involves inflammatory vasculitis of the cranial arteries. These patients are typically treated with corticosteroids to reduce inflammation and prevent serious complications, especially vision loss. One very important clinical point here is that corticosteroids should never be stopped abruptly unless specifically directed by the provider. Sudden discontinuation can create significant complications because the inflammatory process may rebound aggressively. So again, recognizing the specific headache type is critical because the treatment pathways can be completely different. When we're managing acute headache disorders, especially migraines, nursing care and environmental control become extremely important. One of the primary goals is to provide pain relief, while also preventing the headache from immediately escalating or recurring. First, look at the environment itself. Many migraine patients are extremely sensitive to light and sound. That photophobia and phonophobia can make even normal room stimulation feel unbearable. So nurses often dim the lights, reduce noise, close doors when possible, and try to create a calm environment. Positioning also matters. Elevating the head of the bed around 30 degrees can sometimes improve comfort and reduce symptom intensity. At the bedside, timely medication administration is critical. That includes prescribed migraine medications as well as antiemetics if nausea is present, because many patients experience significant GI symptoms during attacks. Now, for tension headaches specifically, management may also include non-pharmacologic interventions like heat therapy, massage, relaxation techniques, and stress reduction strategies. And honestly, sometimes simple nursing interventions make a huge difference. A quiet room, decreased stimulation, and early medication administration can dramatically improve patient comfort during an acute migraine episode. One of the biggest parts of long-term migraine management is actually patient education. Medications matter, but prevention strategies and lifestyle awareness are often what help patients reduce the frequency and severity of attacks over time. One helpful strategy is clinical tracking. Many patients benefit from keeping a headache diary. That allows them to identify patterns and triggers that may not be obvious at first. Sometimes patients start realizing their migraines are connected to lack of sleep, certain foods, stress, hormonal changes, or even skipped meals. Lifestyle modification is also huge. Consistent sleep schedules, regular meals, hydration, and avoiding excessive caffeine fluctuations can make a major difference for some patients. And then we have behavioral adaptation. Stress reduction techniques really do matter here. Things like relaxation training, mindfulness, exercise, and learning to avoid known environmental or dietary triggers can significantly decrease migraine frequency in some individuals. So overall, migraine management is not just about treating the attack when it happens. It's also about helping patients recognize patterns, gain control over triggers, and build routines that support long-term prevention. As we wrap up this section, it's important to understand that successful headache management is rarely just one intervention by itself. Effective care really happens at the intersection of multiple disciplines working together. First, we have the medical component, using the correct abortive therapies and preventive medications based on the patient's headache type and symptom pattern. Second, we have the nursing and environmental component. Things like reducing stimulation, creating a dark, quiet room, elevating the head of the bed, controlling nausea, and supporting patient comfort during acute attacks can make a major difference. And third, we have the patient's role through behavioral modification. That includes trigger avoidance, maintaining consistent routines, stress management, hydration, sleep regulation, and tracking headache patterns over time. So, headache management is really this combination of medical science, nursing intervention, and patient participation, all working together. And honestly, that's true for a lot of neurological disorders. The best outcomes usually happen when medications, supportive care, and patient education all align together instead of functioning separately. So the key things to remember are this. Migraines are associated with photophobia, phonophobia, nausea, and often unilateral throbbing pain. Migraine progression can move through 4 phases: premonitory symptoms, aura, headache phase, and postdrome recovery. Common triggers include stress, sleep deprivation, hormonal fluctuations, bright lights, MSG, tyramine-containing foods, and chocolate. Tension headaches usually present as a dull, band-like pressure around the forehead or neck. Cluster headaches cause severe unilateral pain around the eye, with tearing and nasal congestion. Cranial arteritis is a major red flag because patients can develop vision loss. Those patients are treated with corticosteroids. Imaging is generally only indicated if abnormal neurological findings or other clinical red flags are present. Abortive therapy treats the active migraine attack. Preventive therapy reduces recurrence frequency. During acute migraine attacks, nursing interventions include a dark, quiet room, reduced stimulation, head of bed elevation, and timely medication administration. And long-term prevention heavily depends on trigger identification, headache diaries, stress reduction, hydration, regular sleep, and consistent meals.